Hi all, I am Deanna Guiloff. I consider myself one of the proudest HubSpot admins in the ecosystem, and that's even if it didn't initially start out that way. So yeah, I was an accidental admin, but that meant I actually got to define what that meant to me and what that meant to the ecosystem in general. So community is everything, and I actually get to run the largest HubSpot user group specifically for admins. And that's where I get to help admins connect with the solutions that they need to thrive, empowering them to help themselves. So today, I'm actually thrilled to be moderating an amazing panel to help us all clarify exactly what it means to be a HubSpot admin. We're going to dive into the roles, the challenges, and the wins that HubSpot admins experience. I am joined by an incredible group of experts who are shaping the future of HubSpot admin work, and I cannot wait for all you all to hear their insights. So panelists, we're going to jump right in. The first question for you. HubSpot admins wear so many hats, from system architect to marketer to RevOps specialist. Share a little bit about yourself and your perspective on how you would describe the core responsibilities of an admin. Sarah, I'm going to ask you first. With your expertise in marketing ops, what core responsibilities do you think they should be accountable for?
Yeah, so I come from a little bit of a unique background, having focused in on startups, right? And so anybody who's been in that realm knows that you have to wear all the hats because there's a lot of hats and only a few people to wear them. That said, my background starting in marketing has made marketing ops my entire focus. And so coming in as a HubSpot admin, for me, it means being able to walk through the entire client journey from the very first touch all the way through the sales cycle into the actual revenue attribution at the end, and then even through the customer life cycle. And so for me, I have that perspective of, yes, my primary passion is about that, top to mid funnel, of how do we get people into a pipeline, nurture them, and then get them to convert. But you have to have that visibility of the entire journey if you want to be effective in that. So, there's a lot of things within like the HubSpot actual tools that you have to be able to know and do. But for me, it's way more important that you have the strategic insight to be able to lead the discovery and the discussions to be able to build to it.
Love that. Matt, as a founder, you have done amazing things. You've been a solutions partner, you've been an app partner. How would you describe the core role of a HubSpot admin from your perspective?
Admin. I did a deep dive in this about 3 years ago and created the 5 stages of the HubSpot admin. And I think it's important to note is because we talk in absolutes with admins, it's just difficult. Is admin means I like the combination because you're in the Salesforce community, we're in the HubSpot community, but it means to know the system really well, but it also then means to know the methodologies like RevOps, go-to-market methodologies. And the combination of those two things make you an admin. And I think we need to admin is not a denigration title. It should be something that's applauded. It's combining those two things. So it's the ability to know what questions to ask and when based on the revenue journey you're at. Because what you do at 0 to 1 is different than what you do to 1 to 10. And so when to apply the systems and when to apply the processes. So an admin, and I think like the stage 5, if I would, admin can do a Miro board and do a full process journey, can run a really good meeting like a PMP, can be able to do no code integrations with Zapier and just knows they have a large tool set, like almost like a Batman, and can really at the right time does the right thing. And they know sales ops, and they know rev ops or marketing ops, et cetera. So that's what I like. The admin, I think, lives in different stages. And as they get different, they can increase in stages, they increase in capacity to do more and more for the organization they're at.
I love that. Lucy, giving your background as a HubSpot expert, what would you say are the core responsibilities?
Well, so I love what Matt said, and I think, as we said in the Super Admins Bootcamp, the role of the admin is not from a specific hub. So we have seen admins becoming more and more in depth about the tool and knowing how it works. So it's not about the specific tactics or tools that you're going to implement. It's like Matt said, knowing when, for who these are the right tools, right? So I think we get everyone's everyday questions from clients saying, should I implement this? Or should I implement that? Is this good for my business? Is this good for my current processes? So as an admin, I think we are like the housekeepers of the CRM. We need to know how the tool works, but we need to know the business and how both of them connect, right? Sometimes one tool is going to be the perfect answer for a challenge or a goal or a problem that the company is facing, and sometimes it's going to be other one. Or for other companies in the same industry, the implementation could be completely different. So I think admins need to have that technical knowledge about how the CRM works in the back. And of course, if you're able to know some other technical knowledges to expand the CRM ecosystem, to go into integrations, a little bit of connecting other apps, advanced automations, that is going to be like your strong suit as an admin.
I love that. Alexia, you do a lot with digital transformation. You call yourself a digital transformation specialist. So what do you think the HubSpot admin should focus on?
Well, I work for a growing company called the Abs Company. We do exercise equipment for individuals and gyms. So my role in the company is to essentially take care of all of the tech in the back on our back end. So I'm doing HubSpot, I'm doing Shopify, I'm doing our ERP. So I've got a handle on everything that integrates and try to integrate everything together. So we have that information wherever our team members are working. I work very closely with our sales team and bringing them along this transformation journey, coming from absolutely like working on spreadsheets and post-it notes to having an actual system to work in and be able to track what they're doing on a daily basis. So that transformation right there, it was difficult because they're used to just doing things on their own and not having a system. So you have to really put yourself in their shoes and figure out how they're working and try to teach them how to translate their systems into something that's more digital. And we're able to just keep track of everything and make sure that they're working and they're doing what they're supposed to do. So just trying to get them familiar with the system by regular training and also just listening to them and listening to their problems. So I think that an admin not only knows the system, but knows the people that are going to be using the systems and helps create an atmosphere and a culture where we're learning together and not just I'm giving them the system to do.
I love that. And George, speaking of the people, you're a man of the people. How would you define HubSpot admin?
First of all, we got to give Alexia like a hallelujah, like an empathetic listener to the humans in your organization so that we can, oh my God, like, yes. So I come at this a little bit differently. Yes to everything that everybody said, but for me, when I talk to super admins, it's about leadership and influence. Like, I don't want super admins to just be button pushers. I don't want them just to be humans who are testing and guessing, but I want them to become strategic partners in their organization and realizing that there's a way to communicate with the C-suite. There's a way to communicate with their teams. There's a way that they can actually be the go-to strategic partner. And that comes through the other piece that I love to talk about is curiosity and adaptability. Look, issue's going to hit the fan. It's going to happen. And it's your ability to pivot and transition and bob and weave, whatever analogy you want to throw in there as a super admin, that's going to be your superpower. And then the curiosity to keep learning. Like one of the things that you have to do everything that all these amazing people that are on this panel, and I'm not even sure why I'm here, like what you have to do is you have to be a learn-it-all. Like you can't show up at work and be a know-it-all and just like sit in your desk in the corner and like click on HubSpot. Like that's not it. So leadership, influence, and then curiosity and adaptability. That's the core of super admins.
I love that. And agreed. Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about what we think that the role looks like, how do we feel about the role varying from company to company? Is there some flexibility? Is that an advantage, or does it create some kind of ambiguity? Matt, do you have thoughts on what that looks like from company to company for an admin?
I have it goes in the stages of admin, and I love what Georgia said is influence. But like, how do you get that? And if you look at being an admin, is not just knowing HubSpot. It is the ability to communicate really well. So when you or communicate and think deeply about problems. So when I go to a new company, regardless of industry, although that is helpful if you have it, there's only two things I'm thinking about. It is number one, how do I get people to use the system that they have? It's adoption. It's the only thing I think about. It is how do I get you to use? And it's very simple. How do I answer the questions they have hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly? And if you ask those questions and you answer those in order, you will get adoption, you understand the problems, and then you can change processes. So regardless of what an admin is, asking those questions, I think is where you start. And number two is, and I really mean this, guys, and people may think I'm crazy, but can you or can you not run a really stinking good meeting and control it? I mean, it sounds crazy, but as George said, can you start on time? Can you roll call? Can you set the agenda? Can you take a parking lot and say, hey, I hear what you're saying, but that's not what our topic is right now. I'll take that and I'll do it later. Here's the next steps, and drive. And if you want more influence and you want to be able to talk up, you can run a really good meeting. You can send a fire recap, and you can answer questions hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly as you go on, and you'll be stinking good no matter where you are.
I love that. Lucy, you talked a lot about not having to be hub specific for an admin role. When we're looking at the differences in companies, how are you thinking about that?
Well, I think that the most common scenario is to start seeing admins that are coming from the marketing side, right? So I think Marketing Hub at least is one of the most used hubs, I think, worldwide. But when you start knowing what's in the back of the CRM, that is, of course, everything is built over a database because HubSpot is a database in the back. When you understand that and how that works, you realize that most of the tools that we have are not only for marketing or are not only for sales or not only for Service Hub. So sometimes I see a lot of admins in different companies, even though they could have different hats and could be doing different roles. I think it's a full-time job. I don't think this should be part-time. I don't think someone should be doing this as a side because there's a lot of responsibility on the database, on the foundations of your information, on how you can trust the information that you have to make decisions in the CRM. So I think that once you understand that, companies and people that are trying to become a super admin or admin, or they have become admins by accident, you stop seeing your role as reactive, people asking you things to do, and you start seeing it more as proactive, right? So you see this new feature or you see this new thing that HubSpot has launched. Is this good for a business? Is this good for this team that is working in the CRM? So I think that could be what is becoming the role of the admin. And it has different shades in different companies, but I can see some things in common among all of them. And this is going to start shining eventually, right?
Agreed, absolutely. When Matt was talking about adoption for the actual tools and across the company, Alexa, when you brought in the human element to that, I lit up a little bit because I think a lot about humans and how giving them the tools and resources that they need to be able to do their jobs effectively. When an admin is moving from one company to another or thinking about those roles from different companies, how do you think the human element needs to play a role in that? You're on mute.
Apologies. To be pretty obvious, I mean, you don't have a company without humans. So, I think having, the most limited experience in other companies with HubSpot here, I believe that in order to become a really good admin at any company that you go to, you have to have good relationships with the people who are using the system that you're adminning. So they're the ones who are going to be in it every single day. You're the one who's supposed to be taking care of all the hubs and all the workflows and issues and anything that happens with HubSpot. If you're not aware of what they're struggling with and what they need to do on a regular basis, it's pretty difficult to be a good admin anywhere. So I think, with the human aspect there, I think that's really super important to make sure that you can establish decent and a really good rapport with the people that you're working with.
Absolutely. Sarah, a question for you. What do you think are some misconceptions around hiring for a HubSpot admin role?
Oh, there's so many. I think one that I was actually thinking of during this conversation was that we're referring to this as a single person, that we're even talking about the idea of a HubSpot admin for a company, right? Like in a perfect world, there's a team of people. We've already said one person cannot possibly do it all, right? And so when we're talking about this, I think a lot of us in this conversation, right, are thinking about it from an executive leadership perspective. Like, as the person leading operations for the company, here's how I would come in and here's how I would use HubSpot to do so. But depending on how large the organization is and the complexity of the need, like you need a lot of hands in HubSpot, and you might need specialists in certain areas. And so I think that's one misconception, is that one person can do it all, and do it all perfectly, right? And I think that hits on what George said earlier, right? Like that we have to be consistent learners and problem solvers. It's not just about knowing everything, because it's not going to happen. I mean, product updates alone, like other than Chris, nobody else is going to be able to keep up with this. And so the rest of us are out here in the weeds just solving the day-to-day problems. And so I think one of the misconceptions too, that Matt pointed to, right, is that they're button pushers, that a HubSpot admin is somebody that you send tickets to, they do the correction or the addition into the system, and that's it. That's what they're going to be doing in the back end. When if that is what you regulate someone to, then you are missing out on the biggest powerhouse in changing the company. I think from a revenue influence perspective, operations has the biggest influence on revenue of the company and the projection of where you can go. And so I think there is a huge misconception in not looking to operations as executive leadership to guide the conversations, ask the hard questions, and then say, no, we could do these millions of things, but here's the things that we're going to do, and here's how we're going to prioritize them, because I know how every department is going to fit together and how this data is actually going to drive the company forward.
Yes, all of the above, yes. George, you have founded an organization that really truly lives and breathes the helping admins space. What are some resources that admins can use when they are looking into this role, and organizations can use when they're looking for hiring this multiple team of admins that hopefully every organization eventually gets to have?
Yeah, so man, there's so many things that come to my brain, but I gotta back up for 1 second. I'll make this quick. First of all, Lucilia, if you're, I gotta hit something that you said. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this or you know somebody that is a part-time admin, they need to have a conversation. You need to have a conversation. Like, that shouldn't even be a thing, because when it comes to super admins, I swear it's like God, Jesus, and super admins. Like, that's the level of like how it is. And so, like, no, not part-time. Also, Sarah, we're talking about it's like one person. Listen, if you can't hire admins, then you got to get real good at creating your internal champions, right? Because they can be your team, even though they're not paid to be your team. So, like, I got to hit those. So first of all, Deanna, come on, YouTube, super admin HubSpot user group channel. Like, that's a resource that they could go to. The Profoundly community, that's a resource that they could go to. Sprocketeer, there's stuff in there around super admins. They could go there. Heck, you could go to our website, Sidekick Strategy. You could sign up for the super admin training if you want. You could go to the academy and do the super admin boot camp. Like, that's enough. There you go. Like follow any of those trails and you can learn more or put people in the right direction.
I love that. That's all great answers. Lucy, do you have any
Oh, hang
resources?
on.
Oh, more. Go
Kyle
ahead.
Jepson is in the chat pane. I'm just saying it's the first time I've seen him in there. And yes, Kyle, I hear that the HubSpot admin hug is pretty good too, brother. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
You're all good. Love the shout out because, Kyle is the OG admin. We got to give him some respect to the, yes, absolutely. Lucy, for you, when you're looking at resources to help build up HubSpot admins, those are all great places that you can go to. Well, what tools are you looking to help admins build those skill sets so that they can actually go and do that and not just be hub centric?
Well, I could tell you, but I will have to tell you to join our session now that we are going to be discussing that with Kyle in session 1 for admins. But well, I think as George said, there's a lot of free resources. There's a lot of people, professional people that have advanced knowledge that has been doing this for a while. I think we've all been here for many years. I think I've been using and learning about HubSpot for more than 10, 14 years. I think I lost track. So eventually you will get there. Sometimes I have clients telling me, Lucy, how can I know as much as you do? Start learning, start doing, start trying, have a demo test, a demo portal, keep doing, because nobody was born knowing. We've all been there. We've all started at some point, even from the marketing point of view, from the agency, from the company. Either way, we'd all started and we're all learning. So take advantage of all those resources that are out there. Connect with people. Community is a great way of sharing knowledge. You can always learn from people. Even when we are teaching boot camps or whatever, I'm learning from people's questions. That is challenging always me to think, oh, why did he ask this? What did he meant? How is she seeing this any other way that I'm seeing it? And always challenge the status quo. Even if you think you know the answer, challenge yourself to think differently. And I think that is the key. Always be learning, always be curious, always question things. Don't give anything for granted. I think that is the best thing, the best tool. Not a place, it's inside you, I think.
I love that. The drive to always be bettering yourself just a little bit more each day. Matt, when you are thinking about what the HubSpot admin role looks like in the next 3 to 5 years, what do you think are the most beneficial and crucial skills that HubSpot admin can be putting on their resume and putting in their tool belt of getting better at and learning?
That's a hard question, Dee.
Important.
Yeah. I think I have a caveat and then 3 things is, George and Lucy or Lucia have been talking. There's a lot, like the the super admin boot camps, the organization George runs, Profoundly's here, there's so much updates that happen. Literally more than one a day that, I just want to note what we're living in a sea of change. And so there's an element of this that we just need to be plugged in. So I say to predict should you be doing is difficult because of that statement is. So just number one, if I was to say, and if I had to put it the base down again, and I will try to put this out somewhere about these stages, is number one, you heard people say this, a CRM is a database. And so if you can understand how just multi-tenant databases work and how to have one object to a next object, and HubSpot's going to continue to move in places like Salesforce is the way you can have more and more customizability. So just understand how data works is number one. It's actually really important for an admin to move and have influence in an organization. Number two, I recommend don't focus on hub. I'm going to say this, don't focus on the hub. Get really good at a function. And so what I mean that because sometimes there's cross hubs. So example of that would be, hey, I want to be sales operations at a X company that is centered around HubSpot. So if you want to continue to learn, focus on a function, and that function will innately have an industry that you will learn. And number three, I would say get really, really, really good at drawing pictures. I know it sounds odd, but I'm going to say process maps. So if then this conditionalities. So, and you will, the more and more you do that, you'll be able to see it in your head and make decisions very quickly. So those three is understand databases, be able to focus on one function. So you can do marketing ops. You can never run out of things to do in marketing ops. You will never run out of things to do in sales ops. You will never run out of things to do in ERP, like FinOps portions. You will never run out. And then third is just make sure you are, just continuous learning. So that's what I would say is there's a never stopping expansion of HubSpot. And so focus function and focus on your innate skills outside of HubSpot and stay plugged into the community.
I appreciate that and also agree. The more you learn, the better you can be, the better you can iterate. So that's great. Sarah, do you have anything that you're thinking about for the next 3 to 5 years that are going to be critical for the admin teams that we're all going to have eventually here? What should they be focusing on?
I think there's a lot that's changing right now, right? Because there is a lack of financing that I'm finding being pretty prevalent in terms of investment in the admin. And so what I hope over the next 3 to 5 years is that does start to expand and we can become more specialized again. But for right now, that's not a luxury that I think anybody has. So I think if you have been really specialized in a hub, or if you have been really specialized in one specific role, starting to gain exposure into the other areas of business that you haven't had a seat at the table yet is a great thing to be doing. And so no matter what kind of company you're part of, or consulting with, like ask to be in different meetings. If you're typically have worked in sales operations, go join the marketing team and understand how they are doing campaigns and how that works and how they think about the business from a brand marketing perspective. You'll get a completely different view of data and how things should move by understanding their use case, right? So I think just gaining more exposure, asking more questions, always being the one to continue to ask the tough questions and poke holes in things and see if there's a better way to do it. Like that for me is always going to be the best way, and that's going to be tried and true no matter what else happens, right? Like we're all talking about it, AI taking over all this stuff, right? Like no matter what happens, right? We have to be able to ask the questions. That is something that we will be doing, is prompting the questions. And so that's the next couple of years, just ask a lot.
Right back into that human element. I love that. So I'm one final quick question for the panel. I'm gonna run through each of them to give their last piece of advice for someone struggling to define what that admin role looks like. Maybe it's a founder, maybe it's someone thinking they want to go into the HubSpot admin role itself and, expand there. So Alexia, what's your one piece of advice for someone in that?
Talk to people, like really talk to them, really sit down and, don't be afraid of talking to everybody because your role touches everything in the company.
I love that. Lucy?
I was thinking like Alexa, but I would say don't be afraid to start learning at least some technical stuff. As Matt said, learn how a database works, learn about a little bit more about automations, learn a little bit more about integrations, go a little bit into the tech side because you are going to need it. Because even as Sarah said, even if we are thinking about AI taking over our roles, but we're going to discuss that later too, we are still needed. There is still a part that needs to be thought by a human. So if you go there, you'll be safe and you'll be thriving actually, because Jason already said that. If we go into that technical part, if we move into those uncharted waters, we are seeing the future, I think, of our role.
Absolutely. Matt, what are your final thoughts? What's that one piece of advice you would give?
This will be the least specific thing I say is no matter where you are, provide and maniacally focus on providing value above all else. So don't be worried about calling yourself an admin. Don't be worried if you're in marketing ops or sales ops. Just there will be a problem and the CRO or the CEO will say, I need this problem fixed. Raise your hand and fix that problem. And the faster you do it, there will be another problem. And your next solution is your next problem. and just go learn. And if you maniacally focus on value, you will become the admin.
I love that. That's great. George, wrap us up here. We are one
Yeah.
piece of advice.
I feel like that should be on a show. You will become the admin. Like, anyway, so that was super dope. I also want to, by the way, Deanna, don't sweat it too much. My answer is super quick, so I want to circle back around. I think it was Sarah talking. Anybody on this event or you watch this later, please, by all that is holy, if you're a super admin, Google business acumen. Pull that thread, chase that thread, understand that thread.
Go down that
Anyway,
rabbit hole.
go down that rabbit hole, please. So my one tip, if I could tell any super admin anything, it would be pray for patience and pray for grace. That's it.
I love
You're
that.
gonna need both. You're gonna need both, and buckle up and good luck.
I love that. And as an accidental admin myself, I, fell into that role. Give that grace. Give that grace just as much as you expect it towards yourself.
Yes.
And know that everyone's just trying to be the better version of themselves that they can be, and move together and row all in the same direction. Awesome. Well, I appreciate, panel, thank you so much for all of your expertise and all of the things you do in the ecosystem for all of the admins and all of the wonderful thought leadership and education that you've put out there. And I can't wait to see what the Profoundly community is going to put out there and give even exponentially more. So love it. And I hope you all have a great time in the next session.